it is not about the individual habit.
Mm-hmm.
It is about keeping the promise to yourself, because that is what builds confidence. And without confidence, you're sunk. You can't do shit if you don't believe in yourself, right?
100%.
I look at a morning routine as a menu. And for a while, I adhered to Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning structure, which I think is a great starting point in informing like what works for you and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think your habits can adjust. It's more of like, do you have the space in the day carved out to do something that will support you? Like, what are the things that actually move the needle for you, that actually make you feel like a person of integrity, that actually support you throughout the day doing whatever you want to do, and like get rid of the have-tos. And then the final thing I'll say on this, I think it's really important to have a mix of routines that support you physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. If you're not doing anything that stimulates your mind, if you're just grinding mindlessly without further intellectual development, like that kind of gets old too. If you're not taking time to regulate your nervous system and like process through emotions, like all that's going to catch up to you too. You're building on a house of cards. So you really have to factor in each of those 4 things. And that might look different every day, and that's okay.
Hey, how are you doing?
Doing amazing. I'm happy to be here, especially for the rebrand.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. I am excited to share the screen today with Alessia Citro. We have so many things in common, but one of them being that we both went to the same college, although not at the same time, but we were both in the same sorority and we both were president of that sorority. So that is super exciting. I think you are now my 7th USD alumni guest that I have had on the show.
Oh, an honor to be among them. I love the USD peeps. Like, such good people. Probably my favorite thing about the university.
It was really such a wonderful experience. I feel so grateful that I went there, because I have so many great friends and so many great people in my network who are all alums.
Oh yeah, the network, like second to none. And I actually realized that while we were at USD. Like,
oh, that's cool.
I would compare notes with my friends from high school that went elsewhere, and I was like, oh, my friends are cooler than yours. And they would say that too, actually.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. I love that. Because, I think for me, my first semester was a little tough. I mean, I definitely like made some friends in the dorms and hung out. But I do remember coming home at Christmas break and talking to my parents and being a little like just unsure of things. But then, and also, here's what's crazy. I never considered myself a sorority girl. So
no, me neither.
I left high school and I was like, I had so many friends who were like, oh my God, I can't wait to rush, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, like that's so not me. I'm so not going to do that. So then I was like, came home for Christmas break and I was like, maybe I should just give it a shot and see. And then I went through Rush and I found Alpha Phi and I was like, oh my God, all these girls are just like me.
Yeah.
So it was very, very cool realization.
Yeah, that was my experience exactly. And I wonder where the girls like us go now, because Alpha Phi is no longer there, because they were kind of wild while we were there, and finally caught up to them. So RIP, Ada chapter of Alpha Phi.
I know. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it's been about 10 years now, hasn't it, since they got kicked off?
I think a little bit less. So they're eligible to return now that everyone's graduated, but they have to be like reopened for colonization at the campus, and then like go through the whole process. So hopefully they'll end up, but I don't even know if sororities are going to exist all that much longer. I was an advisor at Alpha Phi Cal State Long Beach, and like demand in rushing is just like way down. Like,
oh, interesting.
These Gen Z kids, they're not about it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I know. All I remember is one of my sorority sisters who was a year younger than me. There was some chatter going on about the chapter getting kicked off, and I was like, Amy, what is going on? And she's like, it's too much. I need to call you. And I was like, okay.
I know they weren't even like that. I don't remember exactly why they got kicked off, but like they weren't even that naughty. I was like, oh shit. Like time's been a little different when we were there. We probably would have gotten kicked off on my watch. I'm glad that didn't happen. That would suck.
Oh my God. I know. I mean, honestly, we probably should have got kicked off when I was in
100%.
charge of things because
Me too, girl.
think about it. There was, thank God. I mean, for us, we had no cell phones. Like maybe we had throwaway cameras. Like there was nothing, there was no immediate, sharing of all of the debauchery that went on the night before.
Oh,
but
God, yeah.
I know, I mean, we broke rules. I remember getting called into Panhellenic and like having to defend, what we did and why we did it. And I would, call meetings and I was like, nope.
Simpler times.
You put me in charge and I'm going to be in charge, baby.
Alpha females for sure. Yeah. Simpler times. I kind of long for the days where we weren't connected to the internet all the time. But then also like so much good has come of it. So
I know it's such a blessing and a curse. Like there's so many positives, but it's funny. I was recording a podcast yesterday with a guy and he and I are the same age. And we were talking about like the nostalgia of like checking the answering machine when you got home. And I was like, so many people younger than us will never know that like excitement or like, I remember getting home from school and being like, oh my God, I got to check the machine. I wonder if like the boy that I liked called me or, and it's like, oh, and now it's like, you just stare at your phone.
I know. Oh yeah, I know. Isn't that wild? Oh, and I remember too, like I haven't thought about answering machines in a long time, but like if you were like really cool, you had your own line and answering machine. I did not have that level of privacy. So
I only had that level of privacy in like college, like my last 2 years. Because I lived with 3 other people. And so I had my own line in my room. And then I think they shared one.
Dude,
and
you were
I don't know
time.
why. I know. I don't know why I was like, oh, I need my own line. Oh, you know why I think it was? Because I lived with girls that were in Gamma Phi. And so I was like, I have to make sure that they could never pick up the phone and hear what I'm talking about.
Actually, that's legit. Yeah, no, I think there's some legitimacy to that.
God, that's so ridiculous. In retrospect,
doesn't this make you feel old?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so funny to me because I was at this event last week. I went through a startup accelerator program at the beginning of the year called Techstars, and they had this fall cohorts like demo day is what they call it, where like all the teams in it or all the businesses in it, they share a demonstration of what their product or service is. And so I was talking with these 2 guys who were in my cohort, and they're like, 25 or something. And so somehow we were talking about something and like age came up and they're like, oh, whatever, like you're not old. And I'm like, I'm going to be 47 in February. And they were like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, I'm literally old enough to be your mom.
Hey, as long as you don't look like it or feel like it. Because when we were comparing graduation years, I was surprised that you were 8 years older than me. So whatever you're doing, if you don't have like a skincare routine, Instagram Live, you probably should because it's working for you.
I always say I have good genes and a good injector, and my injector appreciates when I say that.
Yeah, you got to have both. You got to have both. Yeah. One on its own won't cut it. But both, that's a formidable combo. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I think that like as we get older, I don't know, at least for me, like I remember being younger and thinking like, oh, when I get to X age, I'm going to feel this way and I'll feel like I'm an adult and I'll feel all of these things. And in fact, no, I just still feel like me. I just have a few more, experiences under my belt.
100%. Yeah. And I don't feel like I'm, have creaky joints or like I have less energy. I just feel like a wiser, wealthier version of my younger self,
which is great.
I'm like, let's keep this going. That's what I'm here for.
Absolutely. Love all of that. So tell me, like, where are you from originally?
Okay, so I was born in Iowa, but then I lived in California pretty much my whole life. And then, Chicago is where I spent my formative years after college. And then now I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I've kind of been all over the place.
Nice. So what do you feel about living in those places? How living in each of those places kind of defined you or like made you a little bit of who you are?
If it were not for the Midwest, I think I would be an asshole. I mean, and I
Okay.
have moments where I am like,
Yeah.
let's just be aware and honest.
Uh-huh.
But the tie to the Midwest, both my mom being like the most salt of the earth, Iowa farm girl through and through. Like we always say, like, you can take the girl out of Iowa, you cannot take the Iowa out of the girl. Like she
Aw.
really helped. Her and my grandparents really helped like ground me, shape me, like keep me very humble and also clue me into how the majority of the country lives. Because then when you move to Southern California, it's very like, I mean, everyone's got an injector. I would not say that people in Iowa,
Right.
and I have one too, by the way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But like different vibe, you know? And then I think living in Chicago, like my dad is an Italian immigrant. And so I have the gift of directness from him. I feel like Chicago honed that more, but in like a really like nice Midwest way. And then now that I'm out in Arizona, it's just this beautiful melting pot and people who really prioritize health and like being outside. It doesn't feel like a grind the way that it did in California. Like I feel like California is very much like rat racy, and it has to be because the cost of living is so insane.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, they've all played a role.
I love that. You know, it's interesting because I spend a lot of time in Arizona now, and I do feel like such a sense of calm there, and it's just so relaxing. And like, I laugh every time I go there because, you know, the whole city's like all like Scottsdale, Phoenix, Tempe, everything, it's all connected and it's like this one big grid. I don't think I've ever taken the same route to get to the same place ever. So as a result, I kind of don't ever really know where I'm going, but I'm always enjoying the ride because I'm at least like not sitting in traffic. It's just kind of like, oh, this is mellow. And it's like, I've been driving home from places at night and I'm like, there's 2 other cars on this road with me. And I'm in this like major city and I love this.
Yeah. It's so funny though, because I don't share unless asked and prodded that I am from California with people who live in Arizona because many of the people who are either native, there aren't that many of them, by the way, or have lived here a really long time, they detest the fact that all these Californians have moved in because of what they perceive to be horrible traffic. And I'm like, that's really cute that you think traffic's bad here. Yeah. Yeah. It is so mellow here. And just, a really nice grounded energy. I feel like I've been able to exhale since we moved here 2 years ago.
Oh, that's great. I love that. I love that visual of you saying that. It's like, oh, that's so nice. It just feels relaxing.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's talk about your business. So you are a habit queen. How did you get there?
I always laugh when I'm called that which I received that, by the way. So thank you. I always laugh though, because I'm just like the least likely person in the entire universe to write a book on habits because it's exactly what I needed. You know, I'm free spirited. I love variety. Variety is the spice of life. You know, that should be something I get tattooed because I believe it through and through. I hate constriction. I hate repetitiveness, rigid routines. It's just not my thing. However, you bump your head on the wall enough times and you're like, okay, I think I probably need some of this like structure stuff that they're talking about. And kind of, like going by the seat of my pants, that worked really great while I was in the corporate world because, there's structure baked into that life anyway.
Sure. But
also because I had the logos of really amazing, reputable companies to hide behind when I was selling. You go into entrepreneurship, you are the product, you are the brand.
Yeah.
And so personal development and self-care and all these things, they're no longer optional. They're now requirements if you want to have any modicum of success. Yeah. So I finally figured out, you know what? I think habits might be the thing between me and the goals I have, the vision I have. Let's become a student of them because I love to dive deep, learn everything there is to know about something. Let's dive deep and figure it out. And I'm like, oh, this actually works. I'm going to teach other people what I learned. And so that's how I wound up the habit queen.
Okay. So what were you doing in your corporate world before diving off into the deep end into entrepreneurship?
I had, oh my gosh, I was going to say I had like many different careers, I guess you could say. So I graduated 2008. Not a great year to graduate.
No kidding.
Like real rough. And so So I tried on a lot of different things. I thought I was going to go to law school. So I worked at a law firm for a bit and actually really enjoyed that. Decided to move to Chicago so that I could go to law school in a city that was cool. Didn't end up going to law school, spoiler alert, because everyone was doing that. And I was like, ooh, I think we're going to have a supply and demand problem. So then I'm like, well, let me, just take the first job that I can get. So I worked at a private equity firm. Then I was doing public relations. So like all over the place, right? And working at bars in between. Like if you looked at my full resume, people would be like, there's no way this was one person. No, it's all me. So finally, when I moved back from Chicago to Southern California, actually my little sis from Alpha Phi was like, hey, I think you should interview at this startup I work at. Oh, cool. It was a tech startup. And so I'm like, hey, sure, why not? What I want to do is become a beer expert and sell beer to bars, but sure, I'll interview.
Yeah.
What do you know? That was where I landed. So I was in tech sales, first at a startup that's now been around for quite a while, house.com, selling local advertising. Yeah. Really fun place to work. Loved it. And then I knew it was time to move on. So then I jumped over to Salesforce and did tech sales there. And then my final stop on the corporate wagon was Google, where I started March 2nd of 2020. So you can remember what happened a week after that. And that was the role I thought would be like dream job. And it ended up being anything but, not due to any fault of Google, but just the circumstances, having like a 15-month-old daughter and then daycare not being a thing anymore and working 3 hours a day while she napped. Yeah. It kind of stripped me of my identity. And so I knew I was like, I got to go like do my own thing that has more freedom. And then, here we are.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's really exciting. And I think that, I don't know, I feel like so many of these things, like they work out just as they were meant to, that I had started a new job also right at the beginning of January of 2020. And I was like 9 weeks into it. And I was working in an office Monday through Friday. And that was a big change for me because at my prior company, I had worked either remotely or I had worked, like I did a lot of acquisition integration. So I would be on site at the company that we had bought. And then I would be like basically living in a hotel. So I had a very different lifestyle. So then I took this job and I was so excited about it. It was a massive step up in my career. And I had just gotten used to like every day, it was like getting up at 4:30, like, waking up, going to the gym, coming home, getting ready, getting to the office before 9, like working my whole day, like learning all this stuff, getting to know everybody on my team. And then all these like rumblings started coming in and it's like, oh, and then I remember March 13th, Friday, every leader got pulled into conference room with our CEO and he was like, hey, we're going to be proactive. We're going to send everybody home for 2 weeks. We don't really know what's going on. And then we know how the rest of that went. So
it did happen for us though. As awful as 2020 was for so many obvious reasons, I also think that the silver linings, like we haven't even like harvested all of them, but I know that absolutely happened for me personally. And I think it helped a lot of people.
So how long did you stay working at Google before you were just like, this is not making sense?
I made it until July 7th of 2022. So I squeaked out a little over a year. However, we can go down this road if you want. There was 3 months of medical leave in there because by the end of 2020, you go quota crusher, top performer. I mean, you get it. Like we're females, right? Like I'm in charge of everything. Like I'm president of this. I'm like, that's just the way I roll.
Yeah.
That gets taken and it's like, well, who am I then? I ended up going through such a deep episodic depression that I was like, I literally, like I talked to HR at Google, like, I think I can like muster through, like I can power through. They're like, this is literally what it's for. Take the leave.
Yeah.
So
that's great that they were so supportive. I mean,
they were incredible. They really were.
Yeah.
But then I came back and I was like, you know what? Like the first month was great. And then it was like falling back into the old rhythms. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not built to do this. I know I'm meant to do something else. And while I don't really know what the hell that is, I trust that I'll figure it out. And shout out to my husband who, without his support in every way one can be supported by a partner, I don't know how that would have worked out. So thank God for Jeff.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So what was your initial like thought? So you decide to leave and you're like, I'm going to do something for myself. And did you have a plan? I mean, did you have an idea, an outline, or were you just like, I'm going to quit and then I'm going to figure out like what's next?
It was sort of a combination of the two. So it was like a little bit impulsive. I met a woman on a plane coming back from Maui. So my husband and I have a business together. I know, right?
Yeah.
We have a business together. We have a rental, like a vacation rental in Maui. And we were coming back from furnishing it and getting it ready for guests right after we acquired the property. And to make a long story short, we get split up and I end up sitting next to this woman on the plane that's like my sign to leave. And I'm like, okay, I've been out of alignment for a while. I know this isn't what I'm meant to be doing. I'm taking the plunge. So I quit much sooner than I figured I would. And I had a side hustle while I was at Google. I had built a 7-figure online wine business through a network marketing company.
Okay. Yeah. I did not expect you to say that. Tell me more.
So rewind back to like late 2019. I start in this network marketing company. And it's organic wine. And I was like, oh my God, I live in Orange County and I'm like a new mom, like organic wine, like say less.
Perfect. Right.
I'm like, I'm going to blow this shit up. And like back then I was very bought in on like the mommy wine culture stuff, which now I'm alcohol free. Side note. That's another tangent we can go down.
Okay.
But I'm like, I'm going to blow this up. This is going to be lit. So you can imagine 2020 rolls around, everyone's stuck at home. That business freaking explodes.
Oh my God.
So literally doing 7 figures annually, have a team of almost 1,000 people. So that was bringing in pretty good income. So that was like my ditch plan. Like, well, this is only going to continue to grow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Crazy.
But then I leave Google and then that gets pulled out from under me because I'm like, wait a minute. Now that I'm not grinding so much, I have more time and space to actually like think about my life. I'm like, I have become a high functioning alcoholic and many of the people I've recruited have also, and this doesn't feel in integrity anymore. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So then I walk away from that.
I mean, I get it. I mean, I think it's so funny looking back to, when we talk more about habits, because I love habits and I love routine and all of that. Like before COVID, you couldn't have got me to like go out on a Sunday night, to go out on a Monday night, to have a drink on like the first few days of the week ever. Cause I was like, nope, I've got my routines. I've got my workouts. I've got this. I want to feel good, blah, 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 you name it. And then COVID comes along and all of a sudden I'm pouring a cocktail at 3:00 on a Tuesday because I'm sitting working on Zoom on a handful of things with a couple people on my team or a couple of my peers. And it's just like, why not? Like,
yeah. And the gym is closed.
Yeah.
Your workout routine went goodbye.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
So then my thought was like, well, you know what? I'm going to get a coaching certification because I've been like coaching people my whole life. It's just kind of wired into who I am. So I was doing that, focusing on one-on-one clients. But then I'm like, no, I want to have a bigger impact. I want to do groups. So anyway, it's just been like this evolution, just following the breadcrumbs and like what feels aligned and where I'm lit up and can add the most impact and just not being afraid to pivot anymore. I feel like I'm a professional pivoter at this point and I'm okay with that. Before I'm like, does this mean that I'm all over the place and that I have no credibility because I try on all these different things for size? And now I know like, no, that's just the path I'm meant to walk and the people who get it. And if they don't get it, that's okay. I'm not for them. And
I also think too, like, and tell me, I'm sure you'll agree with this. It's like once you start putting yourself out there and you're gating clients and gaining followers, like people tell you what it is that they want. So it's maybe you start out on this path saying like, I'm X, Y, and Z. And then maybe you actually are W, X, and Y and not the Z because of like who you're meeting and who's coming into your world.
That's so true. I mean, even with habits, it's like the book has gotten, great reception. People who are reading are like, wow, this has like completely changed the way I think. And like, I'm seeing these amazing results. And also the thing that people are coming to me now is like, wait, like, how did you record your audiobook without paying somebody $6,000? Oh, how are you doing your podcast by yourself? Can you teach me how to do that? So now it's like, oh, well, maybe my gifts in tech are where I lean into next. So just, having the openness, but then also the structure to be able to just keep shifting as needed without feeling like you're falling down every time or like,
absolutely,
your world's being blown up because you're shifting a little bit.
So, okay. So you leave Google, you leave the wine behind, and then you start what?
So I had been working with high ticket one-on-one clients, but I loved the network marketing model. I still think it's a brilliant model. I'm just not as hot on it as I used to be. Technically, I'm still in one. I just don't really talk about it anymore. I don't.
So like an MLM essentially?
Yeah. So I still have income coming in from that. I built another company up and then was like, I think I'm going to like just focus on my own thing because part of why I needed to go down the path of habits is because I do not like being told what to do.
Yeah, same.
I like to be my own boss.
Yeah.
Even if I'm the one that's putting the constraints on it, like I have to have flexibility. So part of why I don't love the MLM network marketing model is like at the end of the day, like you have a company to answer to that can just take your paycheck if they want. And I'm just not about that life. So it's a great stream of income for me still. But now I'm focused on my own stuff. So anyway, but that was initially another bridge to build. And then from there started out building courses and all of that.
Courses around what though? Like what type of coaching? What type of courses?
So specifically 90-day programs on how to get habits in place so that you can actually go be the person that you want to be.
Awesome.
And specifically for women. So for the men listening, I love you as well, but I'm really interested in working with the women because of this simple fact. Well, two things actually. For one, the high achieving female like us typically has a lot of baggage and programming around perfectionism, very all or nothing type of mindset, which doesn't work. It's why you're seeing, women with these extremely high rates of autoimmune issues compared to men. It's why we're hitting record levels of burnout. And the other thing is that women, we function on a 28-day-ish hormone cycle. Yeah, women, we cannot have the same routine day in, day out long term because we're not the same person day in, day out. Like I'm 4 different women throughout the month, depending on what phase of my cycle I'm in. Yeah. So how can I approach for myself and help other women approach habits as more of like flexible rituals that can ebb and flow based on our own ebb and flow, pun intended.
Yeah. No, that is so crazy because don't you think this is funny? And tell me if you have like these like thoughts or experiences where women are like 50% of the population, give or take, right? I mean, we're half of all of the humans that are walking this earth. And yet it still is like almost like weird that like we talk about like women things. You know what I mean? It's like, ooh, like it's like, oh, I'm on my period, but like, oh, I don't want to tell anyone, but it's like 50% of us, this happens to every single month, Yeah.
Well, and that's why I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of done feeling taboo about like, I don't really believe in TMI anymore or oversharing. So like I did a parasite cleanse and I was like talking about that openly. Yeah. Like I made a reel about like, the irony of like using chopsticks to eat sushi. Sushi's what gave you parasites. And now you're like fishing through your shit with chopsticks to find the parasites. You know what I mean? It's like, talk about a full circle moment. Like everyone poops.
Yes.
Every woman has a period. Like, let's just like, can we stop trying to be so prim and proper? Like, let's just cut the shit,
No, it's so true. Oh my God, I'm dying because I follow this other girl who does cleanses like that often. And she has no, she's like, whatever, I'm telling you I'm doing this. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing. And I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I did not post any like footage or images of the critters that were evicted. I do have some boundaries, but at the end of the day, it's like, we're all human beings. And if we could just stop acting like,
totally,
I'm too good to deworm myself. Like every other country deworms every
all
7
the time,
months.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. It's so crazy. Like so many things that like we don't do here that are so common practice in other parts of the world.
Yeah, we're like too good for it. Like, no, bitch, you have worms too, It's like, get off your high horse. Okay, well, and it's like, and
no, but it's so true. I mean, I will never forget this. You have like just these moments that happen throughout life. And for whatever reason, you're like, I always remember that. I remember my very first job out of college. I was working in commercial real estate and I was in this program that it was the first iteration of this program. So basically, it was called the Wheel program. They hired all of these people. Most of us had just got out of college or were a year or two out of college. And we would work with a different real estate broker in a different office in a different specialty, like every 3 months, hence the Wheel. We would move around. But at the same time, like we had trainings and we had get-togethers for all of the people that were in this program. So I remember one time being at one of the other offices because we had some training that day, and a few of us got into an elevator to like go to lunch or whatever. And it was me and a few other guys. And I remember getting in the elevator and being like, oh my God, I have to pee so bad. And this one guy was like, oh God. And I'm like, what? Like,
you don't have to pee ever?
I'm not allowed to pee
urinate?
just because I'm a woman? Like, what? I'm like, get me out of this elevator, but it's just like, come on.
Yeah, I think the age of like people being like very easily offended and like, oh, like my sensibilities, I think that's fading away. At least I hope.
I think so too. I think so. I also think it comes with age too. Like, oh
yeah.
I'm just at a point where I'm just like, okay, like this is kind of like who I am. This is like oh my God, the other weekend, it was a friend's birthday. And for probably a good 10 to 15 years now, like I have a hard no on doing a big group dinner. Like if it's more than 5 people, I'm out. Like, I love my friends dearly, but like, there's just no joy in that for me because it's like, you hardly get to talk to the person whose birthday it is. You're usually at a long rectangular table where you can only talk to the 2 people, like the person in front of you, the people next to you. And then the bill is always a disaster because some people don't know that you have to include tax and tip, and like they'll throw a 20 down and walk away. And then it's just chaos.
Oh yeah, no, I unsubscribe from that too.
Yeah, 1000%. So it was funny because I was texting one of my girlfriends and I was like, hey, do you want me to pick you up? And she's like, yeah, sure. She goes, we have to be there on time because they won't seat everybody until we're there. And I'm like, what? I'm like, seat everybody? I'm like, this is a dinner? I'm like, the invitation said like speakeasy cocktails. It said nothing about a seated dinner. And I'm like, I'm not going. And she's like, oh my God, are you serious? And I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. I'm like, I am a hard no on stuff like that. And then she texts me back like 35 minutes later and I was on a plane and she's like, oh my God, I hope you get this. I hope that you haven't already declined. I was wrong. I was like, okay, good. But yeah, I just think that like we're at a point now where it's like, it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to do you. And it's okay to like talk about the fact that like we're all human beings and like we all have like there's that isn't there that book that they make for little kids called like Everybody Poops? Hasn't that been around for years?
Yes. Yeah. I should have a copy in my bathroom. I don't know why I don't. Maybe because I don't need it because I'm already talking about it. But yeah, we all poop. It's okay. Let's not make it a big deal. So just don't throw it on planes. That's my pet peeve. I was on a plane and someone ripped ass and I was like, no.
Yeah.
Go to the laboratory, my friend.
Oh yeah, I know. A plane is such a fascinating place. And like one of the things that I'm always blown away about by being on an airplane, because think about this, you would not do this in any other situation, is that we get on airplanes, we have we have our stuff with us, right? So we have our ID, we have cash, we have credit cards, we have a purse, and oftentimes maybe you have your jewelry in a bag in your carry-on, and then that gets shoved under the seat in front of you. And then we all will just get up and use the bathroom and leave all that stuff right there amongst strangers. In no other place do you do that. And that is just the most fascinating thing to me that it's like you get on a plane and you have this mutual level of trust with other people that like, I'm going to leave your stuff alone. You're going to leave my stuff alone. And we're going to get to our destination and then part ways.
But you know what's so funny? Only on the plane do you do that. In the terminal, you would never. Not only because you don't want them to think it's like you left like an explosive device, but also because your shit wouldn't be there when you came back.
No, not at all.
So interesting.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah. Is it because of the difficulty of getting to this stuff? Because the seats are so like, is that the security protocol? It's just so hard to rob somebody because of the space constraints?
So I think it's the space constraints. And I think it's how close we are in proximity to one another that like, say I was sitting on the aisle and you were sitting on the window, like you would acknowledge me when I sat down. So if the person in the center, in the middle of us were to start rifling through my stuff when I got up to use the bathroom, you would notice that. And you might be like, I wonder if they're actually together. But then if I came and sat back down and that person and I never acknowledged one another, you might be like, hey, she was rummaging through your stuff while you were in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I mean,
there's kind of like a
at least I would
buddy system
hope
built
that
in.
that's what would happen. I don't know. This has been an incredible tangent. I'm thrilled for it.
I love tangents. If you can't tell, I have raging ADHD. It
Oh
should
my
be the
God.
giveaway.
Well, so I do want to talk more about habits though, because I think it's an awesome thing. Like I have always, like I said, I've always been a big fan of habits. I think that, consistency and discipline, which are the core tenets of having habits, it's so important and so necessary for any type of success that you want to have in your life, whether it's professional, whether it's fitness, whether it's friendships, relationships, there has to be that level of consistency there. So what have you found to be your best habits?
For me, it's really all morning based, not because, not even because of like the rituals themselves, but because of how it primes you for the entire rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give an example of a habit that is not conducive to having a good day. So did you know if you watch the news in the morning, you're 27% more likely to say you had a bad day? No
way.
Yeah.
And wow.
So why would that be? Well, the news doesn't get viewers
not positive.
By telling. Like what's the saying they have? If it bleeds, it leads. They're in the business of sharing negative information. That's why you tune in most of the time, right? That's what keeps you hooked. So if you watch that in the morning, it's priming you to be stressed out, to have your nervous system dysregulated, right?
Oh my gosh.
So if you think about the inverse of that, if you do things that are really supportive and make you feel amazing to start the day with, the rest of your day is going to go great. I mean, even if shit goes down, you're just going to be in a place where you're grounded and you've already done these things that you say you want to do.
Yeah.
So you have this level of like confidence about you that, you know what, like I can handle what life throws at me because I've already kept these promises to myself.
Yes.
So one thing I always tell people, like it is not about the individual habit. It is about keeping the promise to yourself because that is what builds confidence. And without confidence, you're sunk. You can't do shit if you don't believe in yourself, right?
100%.
So for me, like the things that are, and I struggle to even say non-negotiable because they ebb and they flow. I have I look at a morning routine as a menu.
Okay.
And for a while, I adhered to Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning structure, which I think is a great starting point in informing like what works for you and what doesn't. But his is really regimented. It's like SAVERS is the acronym. So you have silence, which is meditation or prayer. You have affirmations, you have visualization, exercise, reading, and then scribing or journaling, right? And you're supposed to do each of these 6 things for 10 minutes, so 1 hour.
Okay, 1 hour.
Which, like, that is a great setup. But for me, it was too prescriptive.
Yeah.
I gotta have spontaneity. I told you, I'm a variety girl.
Yeah.
You tell me I gotta do the same 6 things for 10 minutes a day. I'm gonna get so bored I'll want to scream and I'll stop doing it. So what if instead you were to look at the savers list as like a menu? Like what feels really aligned to me today? Do I feel like I need to just like sit and meditate? Do I feel like I need to journal? Do I feel like I need to move my body? Do I feel like I need to go outside and like touch grass, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I also I'm a mom. Hopefully that gets edited out when my daughter barged in, even though I told her not to do so. But as a mom, there are some days where the best morning ritual is just drinking my coffee while it is hot.
Yeah.
Before anyone's asking me for shit with an intent to receive throughout the day, gratitude, all of that. So I really think your habits can adjust. It's more of do you have the space in the day carved out to do something that will support you? And also, sorry, I'm kind of on a soapbox right now.
No, it's okay. I like learning. I like understanding your mindset.
Well, this is also my favorite soapbox because it can absolutely change your life if you are willing to reframe and approach this with curiosity rather than I have to do this type of mindset.
The mindset on habits is so true. Because I think the second we start telling ourselves, I have to do this is this, the second you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, actually, here's a great example of that. And this will surprise many people given that I'm a habits person. I did not make my bed this morning. My daughter, oh God, if you have, listen to me really, really carefully here. If you have a child who is under the age of 6 and they're currently not sleeping in your bed, whatever you do, come hell or high water, do not let them sleep in your bed, because once you do it once, it's all over.
Oh,
so she still sleeps with us, and it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
One night of caving in because I love my sleep, and now here we are. But she got up later than me because she's home sick today. So I wasn't in the room again. I haven't made the bed. And you know what? I don't really give a shit that I haven't made it. That is not like a habit where if I don't do it, I feel like, oh, I've broken this promise to myself. It's like it's like a bonus. Okay.
Yeah.
So break down, like, what are the things that actually move the needle for you, that actually make you feel like a person of integrity, that actually support you throughout the day doing whatever you want to do, and like get rid of the have tos. And then the final thing I'll say on this, I think it's really important to have a mix of routines that support you physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually.
I think that's awesome.
Some people, they only focus on the physical stuff. I have to take my vitamins, and then I'm going to go to the gym, and then I'm going to do the sauna, and then I love all of that. But you also, if you're not grounding into something greater than you, whatever your spiritual belief system is, that's all going to kind of feel a little bit empty. You got to have something that's going to anchor and root you, right? If you're not doing anything that stimulates your mind, if you're just grinding mindlessly without further intellectual development, like that kind of gets old too. If you're not taking time to regulate your nervous system and like process through emotions, like all that's going to catch up to you too. You're building on a house of cards. So you really have to factor in each of those 4 things. And that might look different every day, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's so okay. And I think that that's one thing, it can be so overwhelming, right? Like there are so many things out there. Like I feel like we're in this great age where we have so much access to information and there's so much knowledge out there for us to be able to like learn what we really like and get to know ourselves and better ourselves. But it's also like the information overload where it's like things are coming at you just all day long. And it's like, stare at the sun for 10 minutes in the morning. Like, don't drink caffeine until an hour after you wake up. Like sauna, cold plunge, walk, meditate, journal. Like, and it's just like, oh my God, like, how am I ever going to do all of those things? And I think it's like, okay. And I think it's such a great message to share to people to like, hey, figure out what works for you. And it's okay if it looks different every day, but like do things that are filling your cup up. I mean, I am such a huge advocate of saying that, if I'm not taking care of me, if you're not taking care of you, like nobody else is going to do that. So what my like taking care of me looks like is probably vastly different than when other people's taking care of themselves looks like. And that's also okay. Just because something works for me doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. And that's totally okay.
I feel like there was such this like one size fits all type of mentality around like physical routines and like ways to be taking care of yourself. And like the reality is like there are some people who don't need as much sleep. I actually found out it's because they like
fascinated by those people, by the way. Fascinated by those people.
Me too. I am so envious. I wish that I was one of them. Maybe my next incarnation I'll get lucky and get that gene. But like I don't have it this go around.
There's definitely like times where I'm like, oh, okay, like I only slept for 5 hours last night, but like whatever, because I was so excited about whatever I'm doing the next day or something big was happening work-wise. And I'm like, yeah. But like, that's for me, like a one-off, like that's not sustainable for like days on end. One of my like dear friends, she probably operates on like 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. And I'm like, how? And she's so busy and she's so productive. And she's a great habits person, takes care of herself, super fit, all these things. And I'm just like, how? I mean, I love it for her, but for me, that's like unconscionable.
Maybe she's descended from like the night watch people in the tribe that like just didn't get as much sleep. Apparently that's like a real thing, and that's why there are people like that. I'm definitely not one of them.
Yeah,
but well, actually, I want to maybe not backpedal, but like walk something back a little bit. So I said, most of the time people are too focused on like habits around their physicality, which I stand by. We do need the other components like I talked about, but also like the foundational things that you have to make sure you're taking good care of are all physical. Actually, a lens I look at to inform where to stop, start, continue things is Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, uh-huh.
There's 5 layers to the hierarchy. Real quick, base of this pyramid is like the physiological stuff that keeps you alive. After that, it's safety and security and stability. After that, it's love and connection. Then there's self-esteem. And finally, self-actualization is the pinnacle, right? You cannot self-actualize, or even going down to like level 3, you can't have like really good emotional connections with people if you're chronically sleep deprived, if you're, completely vitamin D deficient. Like at the end of the day, like your physical health is the cornerstone to you maintaining a thriving experience as a human being on the earth. That's just the facts. So like if you're not prioritizing your sleep, if you're not prioritizing hydration, proper nutrition, and I'm not talking about perfect macro. I'm just saying like, are you eating like vegetables, or are you just eating like processed shit all day? Because if you do that, it's going to catch up, right?
It's totally going to catch up. Yeah.
So like, are you getting outside every day? This is this is my non-negotiable. And it helps that I live in Arizona. If I lived in Chicago, this would not be a non-negotiable for me because it wouldn't be available.
Seeing those like single digit and negative temperatures, I know for a fact that I am not cut out for that. I don't know how people do it. I don't.
Oh yeah. Seasonal affective disorder, man. It's a real thing. So, if you do live in a place like that, could you supplement with vitamin D while you physically can't go get sunlight, or if the sun's not out? But like doing stuff like that, the base layers of your needs pyramid, that's what's going to enable you to have the life that you want, to make the income you want, to have the relationships you want, to do the work that lights you up.
Yeah.
Without proper sleep, hydration, nutrition, it ain't going to happen.
I mean, I'm with you. I go outside for a walk every single day, and it's just part of like who I am now. It's not even it's like on my workout routine. It's just like part of like how I function as a human being.
Yeah.
And sleep, it's so funny too, because it's crazy how like the older you get and like you learn more about yourself. And now I'm like, ooh, like, I mean, I love having like a good glass of wine. I love a nice martini, but I'm also like, I would rather sleep great than be hungover. Like having good night's sleep is like so the priority above like everything.
And even if you're not getting drunk, like
that way.
I mean, I mentioned like I'm alcohol free now, but my husband, he'll still imbibe on occasion, but he's pretty much sober at this point too, because the Aura ring has shown him his sleep is shit after one drink.
Right? Insane.
Yeah.
I know sometimes I'm like, want to tell my Aura ring to go F itself, because I'm just like, dude, get out of here. Like, it always kills me when it's like, oh, need to stretch your legs a little bit. And I'm like, I went 20,000 steps today. Like, can I just kick it for an hour or two without you bothering me? Like, come on.
I like that it poses it as a question though, versus like, bitch, get up,
I think I would probably respect it a little more if it was a little more mean to me. Maybe that should be an option for one of their tech releases. Like, do you want your Aura ring to talk shit to you? Yes, I do. Please.
That's a great idea. Okay, so send this to the Aura ring people. Like,
right?
Hey.
Yeah.
And
give
also,
us
can you
option.
sponsor us?
Right? Oh my God. Seriously. It's such, I mean, I'm obsessed with it. I think it's my favorite of all the different, trackers I've tried. It's my favorite so far.
Well, I think this is a good tie into habits too, of like what you measure, you manage. So like now that we're tracking all this stuff through the ring, I'm paying more attention to it.
Totally.
I'm managing it better.
Yeah.
So I would say like, don't go crazy with like habit trackers or anything like that, but just like begin to notice what are the things that you begin consistently doing where you're like, whoa, I have way more capacity than I used to have. Or like, my energy is so much better. Like, what have I been doing differently the last week or so? I think that's where like, again, that curiosity can really inform making more positive changes and keeping the momentum going.
Yeah. And I think too, it's so funny. I feel like I end up talking about self-awareness on almost every podcast that I do, but it's like, it's such a huge component of like a successful life. If you get to know yourself and understand yourself. And a part of that is understanding like, okay, I've been doing this for a while now. How does this make me feel? What am I learning from this? Or am I feeling terrible? And like, maybe I need to cut something out. Like, I mean, I don't know if you're a meditator. I tried it. I've tried it multiple times. It just is not something that is for me.
Walking might be the way you meditate. So I think if we expand the definition,
maybe that is true. Maybe now I can say that is that, and that makes me feel good. I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's jump back to like entrepreneurship as a whole. So now that you've been out doing this, right? You have your 90-day courses, you have people that you coach, you've written a book. I mean, those are all like really cool, really big accomplishments. So from an entrepreneur perspective, like what are your like main takeaways from doing it on your own?
The one that's like coming to mind first to share is that I think the rate at which you will reach the success that you envision also depends on like how much you need it, like how under the gun you are. I think I have taken a lot longer because I am privileged to have a husband that's like he's a high earner, high performer. Like it's given me more bandwidth to experiment and make a shitload of mistakes, if I'm being quite frank.
Yeah. But that's making mistakes is how we learn.
I think I've made more than the average person, but I'm also okay with that because one of the things that I know enough about to be dangerous is like human design. And I have a gift, the gift of extremes. I have the gift of extremes, which means I am going to venture to the edges of whatever it is and then take back the learnings and help other people. So I realize this is also just like the path that I'm meant to walk. But yeah. So I think like my biggest things are like, okay, creating a funnel is like not an option. I was like, I don't know what a funnel is. That intimidates me. I'm not going to do it. And I do think that term gets overused, but like figuring out like what's your way to capture interest, get people's contact information outside of Instagram, because you do not own any of that information if it's on there. And then how can you create relationship, nurture, and then meet people where they're at and fill your offers and move them up the ascension ladder to like from, free to low ticket to high ticket. I mean, I think another really big one that I wish I had figured out a bit sooner is that the better physical care of yourself you take, the better your business is going to do. I mean, ultimately, like I'm about to turn, well, not about next December, I will turn 40. So I have about a year runway.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? By the time I turn 40, like I am going to get back in the best shape of my life. I've been there twice before. Then life happened, fell off. Ultimately, like if I'm the habits girl, like I better be a walking fucking billboard and look the part from a fitness health perspective. And not take my health for granted, because it's not even about vanity for me either. It's like longevity, vitality, energy, like all that 100%. Stuff, brain health.
Yeah.
So I think the why is much bigger now, and that will help. But yeah, I wish that I had like figured that out a little bit sooner. And boundaries is the other thing. Like, yeah, you might need the money for whatever it is. Like the cash flow crunches are very real, especially when you're first starting out. But like, if something deprives me of my peace or my priorities, it's a no. And I think like the energy of that, like that, you'll get dividends from saying no.
Oh my gosh. I think that is such a great advice, because I think energy is everything. And if you get in tune with your own energy and understand what kind of energy you're putting out into the world and how that attracts other people and other energy, then it's like really, I think it becomes so much easier to see like what things you're in alignment with, what people you're in alignment with, what people you immediately are just like, ooh, no, that does not feel good. I'm going to keep on moving.
Absolutely. And like learning to discern what your yes and your no feels like in your body.
Yes.
Because if I'm in my head, like that answer is always going to be muddled. How can I get out of my head into my body and like feel it, trust it, go with that? And the better I get at tuning into that, it's not steering me wrong.
That's so true. I mean, because it's funny. I remember years ago, one of my girlfriends saying, she was like, "Oh, your body will always tell you first." And it's one of those other moments that's always just kind of like rings in the back of my head when I'm like trying to make a decision or trying to figure out like what do I want to do. And it's so true. Like your body always will tell you first if you just are tuned in and paying attention. And then you can easily say, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, I've said to people for a long time, especially this is more like on the relationship front, but unless it's a fuck yes, like it's a no.
Amen to that.
And it's like, it's just, that's what it is, you know? So.
Well, and then there's like the cliche of, saying yes to something is saying no to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that play out with like, I said yes to this thing that I was like a little conflicted on, but I said yes because I had FOMO. And now I'm having to say no to something that I really want to do that I know is perfect for me because I don't have the time or the money or the energy because of this prior commitment. So that's been another experiential tax I've had to pay a few times. If I'm being honest.
I think also acknowledging that like sometimes like saying yes to something means saying no to something else, but sometimes that something else that you're saying no to isn't necessarily like another event or another outing. It sometimes is saying no to like maybe doing some work that you have been putting off, to reading a few chapters in a book that you know is benefiting you, to like getting an extra hour of sleep because you have been not catching up enough over the past week. So it's like little things. It's not always just like, do I want to go to event A or event B? It's like, what else am I saying no to, or what am I not going to accomplish at home that's going to like better set me up for the following day or the following week?
Yeah. I've been toying with like my word of the year for 2025. I don't do New Year's resolutions anymore.
Same.
And actually like that was something I dove into with the whole habits piece and like researching this for the book. Like only 10% of people actually meet their New Year's resolutions. Like,
oh yeah, because you forget about them because life just starts moving at such a rapid pace. And then you like completely forget that like, I was going to do this, that, or the other.
And I think like, there's probably other problems too with resolutions. Like they're not like time bound or like specific enough or measurable, like SMART goal type of stuff or like, that. And then there's the whole habit design thing, which we could go down that road too. Like so many things that I could talk to you about. We probably need to do like a 2-parter if you want to do that. But where was I going with that? Oh, but like I really like a word of the year because it just kind of informs how I want to feel throughout the year and like what I want that to be. And I think the word for 2025 is going to be spaciousness.
Ooh, I like
how can I create more spaciousness in my life?
Yeah.
To just be, to be magnetic and to focus on the stuff that I actually care about that moves the needle.
I think that's a great word. I've been thinking about that as well. Not that particular word, but I've been thinking about simplicity, and not because I don't want to be going all in on everything that I'm working on, but because like I feel so inundated by just everything. So like I've been so like mindful about unsubscribing from emails. It's so great. I hardly get anything that I don't want anymore. And then like Black Friday
How long did that take you out of curiosity though?
It probably took a good like 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
It probably took a good 2 months. But I will say like Gmail's features do really make it a lot easier because if you go into the different tabs, if you just hover over an email that you haven't even opened, an unsubscribe button will pop up on a lot of them. So that has been really helpful for me. And then also like just unfollowing different accounts where I'm just like, no. And then, I'm always very mindful about like where I'm investing in myself for the year. So I, had a couple of opportunities come my way and more than a couple, but I ended up choosing 2 to invest in for next year. And I'm very excited about those and they felt very good. So now I'm kind of like, okay, anything else that like I see ads for or somebody promoting something, I'm just can be like, nope, because I already made my decisions. So I think for me, it's like simplicity. So I can then have what you were saying, like the spaciousness to do all of the things that I want to do and to like attract all of the things that I want in my life.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, this has been so awesome. I have had so much fun talking with you. So tell everybody how they can connect with you, find your book, learn about your courses, all the things.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I would
Absolutely.
love to connect with any of you listening. If anything I said resonated and you're like, yeah, I want to get to know you. I'm most active on Instagram. So find me over there, ALESSIACITRO, and then 2 underscores. Cause yes, there are other Alessia Citros. Who knew?
Isn't that crazy? I have underscores in my handle too for that same reason.
Yeah, I'm like, how is this taken already? There's more of me? Anyway. And then as far as like all information goes around, like I'm hosting a writer's retreat for female authors in Sedona this March. If you want info on that or info on the book or anything like that, my website is the best place to go. And if you're interested in habits, I have a quiz that should be fully what's the word I'm looking for? Upgraded, but it's out there, but it'll be even better by the time this episode comes out. You can go to alessiacitro.com/quiz and you can find out what your habits spirit animal is and how you should perhaps approach taking on new routines.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to take that. That's exciting. I love a good spirit animal.
Me too. Are you a bunny, cat, fox, or deer? That's what you'll get to find out.
Ooh, okay. Okay. I can't wait. Well, thank you again for being here. And as always, thank all of you for listening and tuning in. All of Alessia's info will be obviously in the show notes per usual. And as always, my ask is to please like, comment, share, subscribe. Please leave a review on Apple. I know it can be a pain and I hate asking, but it does help so much. So reviews are everything. So thank you so much. And we will see you next week.